Are there places where topical ideas and beliefs can be questioned and re-evaluated? How do you communicate the gospel to a 21st century disconnected, media-hungry audience? Join us for lunch.
Oh my Lord, sing hallelujah people. Oh my Lord, sing to the world. Follow the light, fight the good fight. God knows you're right to get on the righteous road.
It's not very often that you come across a funny, engaging, and challenging theatrical performance that presents a fresh perspective on Christianity. I found two Christian actors that do just that. Welcome to lunch, Christopher Poch and Jonathan Maltz. Hello.
Hello, hi,
Hi
good
there.
to be here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for stopping for lunch.
That is absolutely fine, yeah.
How are you guys doing?
Yeah, we're
Very
good.
well.
It's a very busy season for us, but it's good to be here.
Yeah.
Spend some time with you.
Busy
great to
is
share.
good. Thank you so much.
Busy is very good.
So tell me about your busy business.
Yeah,
Yeah, so currently, it's the lead up to Easter. Very busy time in the church, but also, busy time for us. And so we're, if you pardon the pun, we're resurrecting our
There we
old production called Centurion, which is, in a sense, is a classic passion play, but from the eyes of a skeptical soldier, the centurion at the cross, and that's we're touring that within the London Borough of Havering, so it's a local tour.
yeah. So we started officially 2-3 years ago. We've been a charity for 2 years, but we've worked together for about 11 years since we were in school together, and we really wanted to create a tour which really gave back to our home borough. So we wanted to really connect with the churches there, and really help the churches know that this is a ministry which we all share in. And we're really passionate about drama ministry and how Artless can reach people who don't know about Jesus, and also people that might never hear the gospel in another way. So we're really keen on partnering with churches to bring to our local area this story, which we think, or we believe, is the most powerful story ever told. Not our particular play, but the story of Jesus, his death and resurrection. So we're really excited because the story, we tell the story, like Chris said, through the eyes of the Roman centurion. But also we tell the passion story of Passion Week through completely in the dark, and sound scenes and soundscapes and audio design. So it's sort of a multimedia experience for the audience. So we're really excited. We're working with two actresses as well, and it's great to not just have me and you on the stage for once. So that's what we're building towards, as well as running our tour of Tour with God, our major production, which started running last year, 2018.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's a
2018.
UK-wide tour
Wow.
with Tour of God. So which has been
I saw the preview and I quite like that.
Oh, good.
Would you like to tell us more about that?
Yeah, definitely.
we were thinking about what to do for our next, large UK-wide tour, and we knew that it was the last year was the centenary of the First World War, the end of the First World War, and we knew we wanted to do a story around that, and then it just came to me. I was like, you know what? There were lots of chaplains. They went out to the front, and we wanted to kind of explore the story of a chaplain. And so I was on jury duty, which I know for some people is a bit of a, they don't really want to receive that letter in the post. But I love jury duty, but also it's a great time to read. So I bought lots of different books on, chaplains in the First World War. And the very first book I read was called To War with God. And I read it, and I loved the story, and I contacted John immediately, and I said, John, this is the story that we need to tell. And really, because it's about a chaplain called Monty who, goes out to France. He's only 27 at that time, and we're both 26, and so he's very young for when he's heading out there, and he doesn't really know what he's heading out to. Like a lot of soldiers at that time, they were relatively naive about the war, and he really suffers a lot during the war. He loses his brother-in-law and very close friends, And he really struggles with the big questions of life and the big questions about, where is God? Where is God in this war? Where is God in my suffering? And, we recognize that, us as Christians, we have to battle with those big life questions. And it's not something that we want the church to hide from. And so that's why we wanted to pick that story.
Yeah, and I think going into researching the chaplains in the war, a lot of what we know about the chaplains in the First World War from some of the war poets and actually how negatively portrayed they were as being cowards or having no real answers or really hiding away from the battle. And we didn't necessarily want to find a story that counteracted that completely, the story of some great chaplains who really did face the battle and run straight into it, but rather we really resonated with the story of Monty because, as Chris mentioned, he was a priest, but he really struggled with the fundamentals of where was God in this. And in fact, as we researched more and got to know the author of the biography, which is his grandson, we really found out more and more into the psyche of Monty and what we recognise now as potentially post-traumatic stress and the same things you see soldiers suffering from now and really recognise as mental health conditions. We see a lot of that present in Monty's story, and I think that's definitely a topic which we're really excited to explore in this, particularly in our schools ministry. So we take a shortened version of the play into schools, and as we know, and as it's so big in the news that there's such a crisis of mental health in young people, and so we take the story, we show them, we present to them, say this is what happened, but then we work in workshops talking about how in our lives we've had similar experiences dealing with suffering on a smaller scale or a larger scale, and talking to the young people quite frankly and openly about our own testimonies, but also how we found a comfort in God and how God doesn't necessarily answer the problems of suffering or why these things happen to us, but rather in the person of Jesus he presents that comfort and that personality, not a distant cold God, but a Father who loves us and who comforts us and also heals us and gives us a new start. And that's why we've always been excited in telling these stories that can unlock conversations, unlock people thinking about the gospel or just thinking about life beyond what we presented with every day. Because I think art, in particular performance, has a real way of opening people's minds, opening people up for new experiences. And I think that what we're trying to do is simply just the top of the iceberg with in terms of using performance in ministry. I believe Jesus was a storyteller. His parables were amazing ways of opening up the word of God to people, and even the people listening were confused of what it meant. That's the typical art form right there. People were confused. And even going back to the prophets in the Old Testament, and I think Ezekiel was the first performance artist, in my opinion. He spoke prophetically what God was saying through his body, through his actions, through his through how he portrayed himself. So I think there's definitely a biblical mandate for using performance in a ministry setting, and I think we're really excited about what we're doing with Artless, what God's using us for, and how we can really explore how God can use these short experiences with people to really meet with them and show them the truth of the gospel. So sort of went in a bit of a tangent, but that's sort of our heart and how we're hoping to use this production and others to really open people's eyes to the light of the gospel.
Sure. So I find it interesting that you found an alternative way to discuss topical issues like mental health.
Yeah.
Why is that necessary?
I think there's a real epidemic of young people who are not only unable to communicate what's going on in their lives, but I think there's almost it's getting better, but an understanding of some of the greater problems in this country and problems in communities. And I think what performance does and what theatre can do, and I believe God can work through, is creating like a frame in which something can happen and then it can be digested and understood from a different perspective. So someone comes to watch a play, and I know when I go and watch a play, I exist not so much as myself, but like a fly on the wall in the story, and you get to understand things from a different perspective, which sometimes is different to maybe reading a book, or although in the same way it is that escapism. But I think it creates a sort of a safe space in which bigger ideas or bigger topics or more scary thoughts could be tackled and looked at and then put back in a box. And I think particularly with mental health, we've had people come up after Tour with God and say, I realised I was actually struggling so much in this, but I didn't know how to put it into words. I couldn't really communicate why I was feeling that.
And it might just be that to just for them to open up, even if it's just, you know what I mean, even if it's just a little bit. It's not in a sense that we're providing therapy or anything like that, but it does allow them to then realise, actually, I have struggled with that as well, and to feel open about sharing that with others. That we're not afraid of kind of putting on the show, and talking about our own experiences.
It's like holding up a mirror, really, and being able to see yourself. Obviously, we try and do this, and we're getting better and better at what we're trying to do, and God's using that. But I believe that when you do get that confrontation with maybe some of the things, I actually associate with that character, but it sort of unlocks, I think, like Chris said, unlocks a chance for God to minister, and that could be through people to talk to them afterwards. So we work with, like, particularly in schools, we work with organisations that are regularly working in schools to then follow up and say, here's a group that you can come to talk about and stuff. But and that's why we love performing in churches, not necessarily to perform to Christians. We actually prefer it when the room's filled with non-Christians, so that then they're in a space where they can revisit and actually have other people who know Jesus, know the truth of the gospel, to actually be able to speak into their lives and to be able to open the door to that step into the journey of knowing Jesus. And I think what the whole process of what we do is really that is our end goal. We want people who don't know Jesus to get a glimpse of him in whatever means necessarily what we do.
Okay, I'm so much enjoying this conversation. I'm also conscious our audience have to get back to work.
Of course, don't want your bosses to get angry.
Is it okay to play one of your clips today?
Oh, please, that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so now you'll have the opportunity to watch us perform for Her Majesty the Queen, which was for SU's Scripture Union's 150th anniversary, and it was a simple sketch showing the history of Scripture Union.
Enjoy. Music by me.
Thank you so much, guys. I've really enjoyed chatting with you.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
It's been great to have lunch with you today.
Thank you. Please come back for lunch. Come back. Come back. And thank you for watching. If this has blessed you, please don't forget to like, comment, and follow. Stay blessed, and we shall see you tomorrow.
It all started with the Bible, the scriptures from which a union was formed. Josiah Spires, a 31-year-old office clerk, was an ordinary man with a desire to read the Bible.
Let the little children come to me. Do not hinder them.
Inspired by the words of Jesus, this ordinary man did something extraordinary. In fact, he did something radical for the year 1867. He opened the doors of 309 Essex Road, Islington, for a gathering of children. He had the desire to see them each develop a personal relationship with Jesus, the light of the world.
Speaking of a shining light, it's a marvelous day. To the beach at Llandudno. For all who call upon the name of the Lord will be saved. But how can they be saved if no one tells them?
Next stop, Llandudno! Sat at the beach at Llandudno, Josiah made a declaration in the sand.
God is love.
And he invited all the children at the beach to decorate it.
Say, gather round.
So what do you have for us today, Mr. Spires?
How old are you, boy?
I'm 10.
What are they feeding you up here? No, I have a story to tell you.
New ideas were springing up. In 1892, two students from Cambridge University had come up with a novel idea to create a boys' camp.
Our plan is as follows.
To collect as many intents as possible.
And to provide all the sports and amusement dear to the heart of boys.
And whilst in the midst of these enjoyments, they shall learn more by example than by words.
Therefore, let your light shine before others, so they may see your good deeds and give glory to the Father.
Dear, a storm's coming. Best get inside.
1914. A fatal shot sparks the war to end all wars. The world was plunged into a storm of darkness. But Scripture Union did not stand still and decided to print booklets of Bible notes for the British Tommies on the front line, which led to the first issue of Daily Notes for adults in 1923.
The Lord is my light and salvation.
In whom shall I fear?
But the world has changed in those years. How do we keep up with a generation that feels so disconnected? Well, the message hasn't changed.
That's it, children. Write it out. God is love.
That's right, kids. Write it out. God is love.